Bear spray, loud whistle, sound grenade, noise device. Hopefully I will not need any of these. So I am here in Denali National Park in interior Alaska, and I just packed up my tent there, got all my stuff on my back here, and preparing to hike out of this campground. The reason being, I got a job, which was one of the reasons that I came up here to Denali. Now, for anyone who isn't subscribed to my channel and doesn't know the whole deal here, then I arrived in Alaska about a week ago, flying from San Francisco, California. I'm from Northern California. I am a travel vlogger. I was in Europe for 3 months before that. And I decided to come back to Alaska here because I worked here in Denali Park 22 years ago. I went to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, just north of here, for a year, and the University of Alaska Juneau for a year as well, and worked here actually 3 summers of 91, 92, and 95. And I hadn't been up here since 1995, and so I decided I wanted to come up and re-experience Alaska, revisit where I'd worked before, and also get a job. So mission accomplished in that department, and I'm walking to basically check into my job right now. I will talk about that in another video. But some people asked in some of my other videos when I was talking about my campsite here, which is $15 a night. This is the hiker biker area, and so some people said, why don't you just wander into the wilderness of Alaska and save 15 bucks a night and save some money that way, and then also get the real Alaska experience. And so I thought that I would respond to that and talk a little bit about Alaska and the process, and camping here and the wilderness and backpacking. As much as I know, I'm no expert, but I have done backpacking in Denali Park here. I've also done some spontaneous random camping as well, which I will talk about more specifically in a second. But a fairly obvious reason, several reasons I will point out right now why I would rather pay 15 bucks a night and stay here. Number 1, campsite, fire pit, picnic table. Number 2, restroom. Number 3, drinkable water. Number 4, bear-proof containers. So, those are the obvious advantages: convenience, amenities, having a more sort of reliable, predictable experience rather than being out in the wilderness. But there are lots of other reasons why you don't really want to just hike out into the wilderness of Alaska to save $15 on camping fees. Basically, it's Alaska. That pretty much answers it. It's not something you just do because you got a backpack and a tent and a sleeping bag and some food and be like, okay, this is, a picnic, a walk in the park or whatever. It is Alaska. There are bears. It is very intense terrain. The weather is extremely variable and unpredictable. Here it is, August 18th, and it is cloudy and it is cold. It was really freaking cold last night. It is different from, for example, backpacking in Northern California. If you happen to see one of my videos of backpacking in the Marble Mountains of Northern California last October, I think it was, or late September or something, it's designated wilderness, and so you get a map for the area, and it is a trail map. There are designated trails, there are lakes, and you stop at the lakes and you have little campsites there. You bring your food, your stove, whatever. You can hike around, and as long as you have general backpacking experience, got your basic stuff, your waterproof tent and enough clothes and all that, then you'll be fine. So the Alaskan wilderness does not have trails throughout it. Even here in Denali National Park, one of the most popular places in Alaska, then there are only trails in this area right around here. And then once you head into the park, deeper into the park, there is no trails out there because it is all wide open tundra. And so you just hike through the tundra and you can navigate pretty easily using your map. And then you can see various things in the distance and navigate okay. But if you aren't in the designated wilderness of Denali or one of the other parks and you just hike out there, you don't have trails, and you need to know that terrain. You need to know what the heck you are doing. You don't just hike out there. You need to be prepared for a very intense, hardcore wilderness experience and have the proper previous experience for it. Know where the heck you're going, know what the terrain is like, know what the wildlife is like, and be fully prepared for the possibility of bears with some sort of a bear-proof. Here they give you a bear barrel, it's called. It's this hard plastic thing you put all your food and everything, and you can stuff it in your backpack. So you need to have something like that. Of course, you'll need to have all of your food on your back. You need to have a stove, and however you're gonna cook your food, you need to know where you're going, what it's gonna be like, what the weather's gonna be like, etc. You get the idea. That is a completely different kind of a deal from what I came up here intending to do. I didn't come to Alaska on this trip with the plans to do a like hardcore, 10 days, 2 weeks on my own out in the Alaskan wilderness, navigating off trail, fending off bears, and all that kind of stuff. Now, getting back to what I mentioned earlier about doing spontaneous camping in Alaska, then I did do a trip when I was 19. I had been in the university in Fairbanks, as I mentioned, 1990 to 91, and then at the end of that year, then I had a job here in Denali lined up, but I had a couple of weeks of break between when school ended and when that job began. And along with a friend, then we decided to go on a hitchhiking adventure around Alaska. So we just took off and started hitchhiking. We had our tents and sleeping bags and some food and some cash. And we basically made this big loop. We started in Fairbanks, went east down through like Tok and stuff, and then went straight south all the way down to Valdez, and then came up and headed west, and then came up through Denali. Didn't actually stay the night here, just passed through, and then ended up back in Fairbanks. And so we spent 6 days or something like that, and we just camped randomly in places along the road. And I think we ate in some restaurants, and we had some food that we ate with us and stuff like that. So that's one thing that you could do. That is quite different from actually like hiking, leaving the road behind, just taking off, hiking out there, being fully out in the wilderness. And so that is something you can do and be less prepared for that. But that also isn't really what I came here to do. I came here to revisit Denali and look for a job, which I will be starting today at 4 p.m. It is 12:30 right now. So hopefully that kind of answers the question. If you want to do, a hardcore wilderness Alaskan experience out there, you need to know your stuff as hardcore as it is out there. And especially if you're going to go solo, then you gotta be an expert. You gotta really know what the hell you're doing and be fully prepared, gear, knowledge, food, all that kind of stuff. But you can also just come somewhere like this, Denali Park or one of the other parks, and camp, get the wilderness experience to an extent. You can also do the back country experience out in the park, in which you do truly get out in the wilderness, but it is a more controlled environment in which they give you the bear barrel. They have designated certain areas in which it is safe to camp. They're keeping track of the bear situation and stuff like that. But once you get out there, you leave the road behind. You get away from any kind of buildings, people, etc. And you do get a wilderness experience. But that is different from just hiking off the road somewhere and just wandering out into the wilderness. All right, I got to keep on hiking here down to the main town area of Denali here and check in for my job. I will talk about that job in another video as I'm hiking along.